The city sleeps, but my work is just beginning. Every night, I walk these long, empty hallways. Just me and the hum of the fluorescent lights. The third shift, they call it, the quiet shift. At least, that's what I thought. My job is simple. Keep this massive office building clean from top to bottom. Mop the floors, empty the trash, wipe down the desks. It's lonely work, but it pays the bills. And honestly, I've always preferred the quiet. Each night when I arrive, I sign the logbook. Standard procedure. Name, time in, and every morning before I leave, I sign out. Name, time out. Simple enough. But a few weeks into the job, I started noticing something. Ode. Right below my signature, another name would appear. Every single night. Arthur Pendleton. His handwriting was shaky, like an old man's. At first, I figured it was a prank. Maybe the Dia shift security guard had a weird sense of humor. I asked him about it, but he just laughed and said he never touches the janitorial logbook. So, I started paying closer attention. I made sure I was the last one to sign out. I'd even wait by the door for a few minutes before leaving, just to see if anyone else came in. Nothing. But the next night, there it was again. Arthur Pendleton, signed in and out. Right below me. It was starting to get under my skin. This building feels different at night. The silence isn't peaceful anymore. It's heavy. Every creak of the building, every rattle of the vents, sounds like a footstep just around the corner. One night, I was cleaning the executive offices on the top floor. This is always the creepiest part of the shift. It's so isolated up there, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing nothing but the dark sky. As I was emptying a trash can, I heard it. A faint whistling. A cheerful, old-fashioned tune, echoing from down the hall. My heart hammered against my ribs. I froze, listening. I'd got closer, then faded away. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" Only silence answered. I packed up my cart and got out of there, my mind racing. I told myself it was just the wind, the building settling, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The next night, I brought a small digital recorder with me. I felt a little foolish, but I had to know if I was going crazy. As I cleaned, I left it running on my cart. The whistling started again, the same tune as before, this time from the floor below me. I grabbed the recorder and rushed to the stairwell, but it stopped as soon as I opened the door. Later, when I played back the recording, all I could hear was the whir of my floor polisher and my own ragged breathing. But right at the end, just before I stopped it, there was a whisper. It was faint, but unmistakable. A man's voice saying, "Almost done." I started noticing other things. A freshly made cup of coffee, still warm, in a break room I had just cleaned. The scent of wintergreen mints, lingering in an empty elevator. Tools on my cart moved around when my back was turned. It was small stuff, things you could easily explain away, but it was all adding up, and this Arthur Pendleton was at the center of it. Who was he? Was he living in the building? A homeless person who'd found a way to sneak in. But how could he get past security? And why would he sign a logbook? The final straw came on a Tuesday. I was waxing the lobby floor, the big open atrium that always echoes. It was around 3 a.m. The only light came from the emergency fixtures, casting long, eerie shadows. Suddenly, the main elevator at the far end of the lobby dinged. The door slid open. No one was there. I watched, my buffer silent, as the door slowly closed again. Then, it dinged again. Floor 12. Ding. Floor 8. Ding. Floor 5. It was stopping on random floors, going up and down, as if someone was riding it, but I was the only person in the entire building. Or so I thought. The next morning, I was exhausted and on edge. My supervisor, a guy named Dave, called me into his office. He looked serious. He held up the logbook from the past month. "I need to ask you something," he said, his voice low, "and I need you to be honest with me. Why do we keep signing in 2 people for the night shift? We're only paying for 1 janitor." I was so relieved. Finally, someone else saw it. "I'm not," I said. "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. This other signature, this Arthur Pendleton, It just appears every night. I thought it was a prank. But then all this weird stuff started happening. I explained everything, the whistling, the moved tools, the phantom elevator rider. Dave listened patiently, but the color was draining from his face. He stared at the logbook, his eyes wide. He slowly ran his finger over the shaky signature. This handwriting, he whispered, his voice trembling. I've seen this handwriting before. He looked up at me, his face pale as a sheet. Arthur Pendleton was the head janitor here for over 40 years. A real old-school guy. Kept this place spotless. He loved this building more than anything. My blood ran cold. Was? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Dave swallowed hard. Yeah. He retired last year. We threw him a big party and everything. A few weeks later, he passed away in his sleep. A wave of dizziness washed over me as I stared at the logbook. The neat lines of my own signature, and right below it, the ghostly script of a man who shouldn't be there. The man who was whistling down the hall. The man who was riding the elevator. The man who was helping me clean. I wasn't working the third shift alone. I had a partner. Every single night. I still work here. The pay is good, after all. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content like this. Stay safe. Out there, for 10 years, I've been the last person to leave Northwood High. My name is Arthur, and I'm the head custodian. My nightly routine is as predictable as the tides. Sweep the halls, mop the spills, and lock every single door. It's a simple job, a quiet one. But for the past month, something has been different. It all centers on room 213. Every night, I make my rounds. I check the science labs, the gym, the library, and finally, the east wing where room 213 sits at the very end of the hall. I lock it, just like any other door. I jiggle the handle, feel the solid clunk of the bolt sliding into place. It's secure. Then I head to my office, grab my coat, and walk out to my car. But every single night, as I'm about to drive away, I see it. A single light, glowing softly from a second-floor window. It's always the same one, room 213. The first time it happened, I thought I'd just forgotten. I sighed, grabbed my keys, and trudged back inside. The hallways are different at night, you know? The echoes of your own footsteps sound louder. The posters on the walls seem to watch you. When I got to room 213, the door was ajar. Who slightly, and the light was on. Annoyed with myself, I switched it off, locked the door firmly, and went home. The next night, it happened again. The light from room 213. I knew for a fact I'd locked it. I even made a point to double-check, but there it was. My heart started to beat a little faster this time. Primera vez que the bike, my footsteps slower, more deliberate. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open. The room was pristine, not just tidy, but perfect. The desks were in flawless rows, the chairs pushed in, the floor swept cleaner than I'd left it, and on the chalkboard, written in neat, elegant cursive, were 4 words. Thank you for staying late. I froze. My breath hitched in my throat. I was the only one in the building. I had been for hours. Who could have written this? A prank. A student who'd hidden somewhere, but the precision of it all. It felt strange. I erased the board, a chill running down my spine. I turned off the light, locked the door, and tea time I practically ran to my car. This became our little ritual. Every night, I lock room 213. Every night, I see the light from my car. Every night, I walk back to find the door unlocked, the room immaculate, and that same message on the board. Thank you for staying late. I stopped erasing it after the first week. It felt disrespectful, somehow. I started to feel a strange connection to this room, to whoever or whatever was in it. I wasn't scared anymore. I was curious. Who was I staying late for? I decided to investigate. I pulled the school's old yearbooks from the library archives, flipping through decades of black and white photos. I was looking for a clue. Any clue. Then I found it. A photo from the 1950s. A teacher, a woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, standing in front of her English class. The caption read, Eleanor Banz, beloved teacher, in a favorite classroom, room 213. I dug a little deeper, looking through old town records. Eleanor Vance had taught at Northwood for 40 years. She was famous for staying late, tutoring students who needed extra help. She never married, never had children. The school was her life, her students, her family. She passed away peacefully one summer, right before the new school year began. Suddenly, it all clicked into place. This wasn't a prank. This was Eleanor. The next night, I did something different. After I locked up, I didn't go to my car. I went back to room 213 and brought my own piece of chalk. I opened the door. There was her message, just as I expected. I smiled. Underneath her words, I wrote my own. You're very welcome, Miss Vance. I turned to leave, but as I reached the door, I felt a gentle, cool breeze sweep through the room, like a quiet sigh of contentment. For the first time, the room felt truly peaceful. I still do my nightly rounds. I still look room 213. But now, I don't wait to see the light from the parking lot. I just walk back a few minutes later, open the door and read a message. Some nights, I'll find a history book left open on a desk, or a diagram of a sentence drawn on the board. It's like she's still teaching, still preparing for a class that will never arrive. I've started leaving her little things. A fresh apple on the desk, a new box of chalk. It's our silent conversation. A lonely custodian and a dedicated ghost. Two souls keeping watch over a sleeping school. People might think I'm crazy if I told them. But I don't feel crazy. I feel less alone. In the quiet, echoing halls of Northwood High, I have a friend. My job isn't just about cleaning floors and locking doors anymore. It's about keeping a light on for a teacher who never truly left. So if you ever drive by an old school late at night and see a single light burning in a window, don't be afraid. It might just be someone saying, thank you. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please like this video and subscribe for more tales from the quiet corners of the world. See you next time. Have you ever lost something? A favorite pen? A single earring? That one sock that vanishes in the laundry? We all have. We chalk it up to carelessness. Simply, we sigh, maybe search for a bit, and then we move on. But what if the things we lose aren't just misplaced? What if they're leaving? My name is Arthur, and for the last 30 years, I've been the janitor at Northwood High. It's a quiet job, mostly. Sweeping empty hallways, polishing trophies that gleam under the moonlight, and dealing with the occasional teenage graffiti. But the strangest part of my job, the part I've never told anyone about, is the lost and found box. It's just a simple wooden crate tucked away in a dusty corner of my supply closet. The words lost and found are stenciled on the side in faded black paint. Every school has one. But this one is different. When I first started, I'd check it every morning. I'd find the usual things: a stray textbook, a forgotten lunchbox, a single gym shoe. I'd dutifully log each item in my ledger and post a list on the main bulletin board. Most of the time, the items would be claimed within a day or two. Simple, normal. But about 10 years ago, things started to change. It began subtly. I'd clear out the box on a Friday afternoon, leaving it completely empty for the weekend. And on Monday morning, it would be full again, not just with a few items, but overflowing. At first, I thought it was a prank. Some kids messing with the old janitor. I'd shake my head, grumble a bit, and empty it out. But the items were always so specific. A perfectly preserved copy of To Kill a Mockingbird with no name inside. A set of car keys for a vintage Ford that nobody at the school owned. A small silver locket, empty, with a faint floral scent. And the strangest thing, everything was always perfectly clean. Not a speck of dust, not a smudge. The shoes were polished. The notebooks were crisp. and everything felt warm, as if someone had just been holding it. I tried to figure it out. I stayed late one night, hiding in the shadows of the hallway, watching my closet door. Nothing. No one came. No one went. The hallway was as silent as a tomb. But the next morning, there it was. A brand new collection of lost treasures. A wool scarf, knitted in a complex pattern. A harmonica, gleaming and unused. A pair of pristine white figure skates. The sheer volume was overwhelming. I couldn't keep up. The ledger I kept became thick with entries, pages and pages of unclaimed items. Who was losing all this stuff? And how was it all ending up in my closet, in this one specific box? One Tuesday, I found a diary. It was leather-bound, with a small brass lock. The lock was open. Against my better judgment, I peeked inside. The handwriting was elegant, a looping cursive script from another era. It was filled with entries about unrequited love, about dreams of traveling the world, about a life that felt small and confined. The last entry was dated 1958. It simply sighed. I wish I could just disappear. A chill went down my spine. I closed the diary and placed it back in the box, deeper this time, underneath a baseball glove and a set of watercolor paints. The items kept coming. A train ticket to a city that didn't exist. A compass that always pointed south, no matter which way I turned it. A pair of glasses with lenses so thick, they distorted the world into a beautiful, blurry kaleidoscope. Each item felt like a story, a whisper of a life. The more I found, the more I felt I was curating a museum of forgotten dreams. These weren't just lost things. They were hopes that had been let go. Ambitions that had been abandoned. Parts of people that they decided they no longer needed. The girl who dreamed of being a figure skater but was pushed into academics. The boy who wanted to be a musician but was told to get a real job. The writer whose stories were never read. Their passions, their secret selves, all packed away and sent here, to my box. One evening, I was cleaning out my own locker. In the back, I found a small, wooden bird I'd carved in high school. I'd wanted to be a woodworker, an artist, but life, as it does, got in the way. I held the bird, the smooth wood cool in my palm. I remembered the feeling of the knife in my hand, the smell of the pine, the joy of creating something from nothing. On a whim, I walked to my supply closet and gently placed the wooden bird into the lost and found box. I didn't say anything. I just closed the lid and went home. The next morning, I hesitated before opening the closet. I took a deep breath and pulled the door open. The box was there, as always, but sitting right on top, nestled in a soft red mitten, was my little wooden bird. It was cleaner, the wood grain seemed to shine, and it was warm to the touch. It had been returned. That's when I understood. The box wasn't a final resting place, it was a sanctuary. It held onto these things, kept them safe, kept them warm, until, well, I'm not sure until when. Maybe until their owners were ready to find them again. Or maybe it just held them so they wouldn't be forgotten entirely. A few years ago, a young woman came to the school. She was a former student, now in her late 20s. She looked nervous. She asked me if, by any chance, the school still had lost and found. She said she'd lost something a long time ago, a sketchbook. I led her to the closet. My heart was pounding. I had hundreds of sketchbooks, but I had a feeling. I opened the box. She peered inside, her eyes scanning the collection of forgotten things. And then she gasped. She reached in and pulled out a worn, blue sketchbook. "I can't believe it," she whispered, her fingers tracing the cover. I thought it was gone forever. She explained that she'd given up on art after high school. Life got busy, but recently, she'd felt a pull, a desire to draw again. Finding the sketchbook felt like a sign. She opened it, and her face lit up with a smile I'll never forget. It was a smile of rediscovery, of finding a part of herself she thought was lost. I stopped emptying the box after that. I stopped trying to find the owners. The box knows what it's doing. It's a keeper of secrets, a guardian of abandoned dreams. It fills itself, every night, with the things we let go of. And maybe, just maybe, it keeps them safe for the day we come looking for them again. Some things, it seems, don't want to be found, but others are just waiting patiently to be remembered. And my job, I've realized, isn't to empty the box. It's to make sure the light stays on, just in case someone comes back to claim a piece of their forgotten heart. Thanks for watching. If you've ever found something you thought was lost forever, share your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the quiet corners of the world. See you next time. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, I've got a story for you that still gives me chills, just thinking about it. It happened a few years ago, back when I was working as a janitor for this massive, old corporate building downtown. It was one of those places with a history, you know? Stories whispered in the hallways, strange noises at night. The usual stuff, but this was different. These was real. My shift was the late one, from midnight to 8 in the morning. The building was a ghost town by then. Just me and the hum of the ventilation system. It was mostly peaceful, kind of serene in a weird way. I had my routine down pat. Start on the top floor, work my way down. The last stop on my list was always the basement, and in that basement was a particular restroom that I absolutely dreaded. It wasn't just that it was in the basement, which was already creepy enough. This restroom had no windows. It was a concrete box, tucked away in a corner, far from the elevators. The air in there was always heavy and cold, no matter the season. The lighting was terrible, to a single fluorescent tube that buzzed and flickered, casting long, dancing shadows that played tricks on your eyes. I always saved it for last because once I was done there, I could just clock out and get the hell out of the building. So, one particular Tuesday night, or I guess Wednesday morning around 4 a.m., I head down to the basement. The night had been uneventful. Same old routine. I wheeled my cleaning cart over, the squeaky wheels echoing in the empty corridor. I pushed open the heavy door to that restroom, and the familiar cold air hit me. That flickering light was doing its usual dance, making the whole room seem to breathe. I started my work, cleaned the toilets, scrubbed the sinks, took out the trash. The last thing to do was always the floor and the mirror. As I started to mop, working my way from the back of the room towards the door, I glanced up at the large mirror that covered most of the wall above the sinks. And that's when I saw it. The mirror was fogged up. Now, this was weird. Really weird. The room was cold, not hot. Nobody had been down here for hours. Probably since 5 o'clock the previous evening. There was no hot water running, no steam. Nothing that could explain a mirror being completely fogged over like someone had just taken a long, hot shower. It was a solid, opaque sheet of condensation. My first thought was that it was some kind of prank. Maybe one of the daytime security guards had messed with it before they left. It was a weak theory, but it was better than the alternative. I sighed, finished mopping, and leaned the mop against the wall to dry. I grabbed a clean, dry cloth from my cart, thinking I'd just wipe it down and be done with it. I walked up to the sinks and started wiping the mirror, starting from the top right corner. The glass was cold and clammy under the cloth. As I wiped, the fog cleared away, revealing my own tired reflection under that buzzing, fluorescent light. I looked exhausted, pale. I kept wiping, moving my cloth in wide, circular motions across the surface. I was about halfway done, clearing a large patch in the center of the mirror, when my hand froze. As I wiped away the condensation, I saw something that wasn't my reflection. It was writing. The fog I was wiping away was revealing letters, as if someone had written a message on the glass when it was steamed up. The letters were hazy, formed by the condensation that I hadn't wiped away yet. My heart started hammering in my chest. This wasn't a prank. This felt drunk. Grunk. The air in the room suddenly felt 10 times colder. I could hear the buzzing of the light fixture more intensely, like it was buzzing right inside my skull. My hand was shaking, but I had to see what it said. Primera detonó. Slowly, almost against my will, I continued to wipe the glass. I wiped around the letters, trying to make them clearer. The message was short, just a few words. As the last of the surrounding fog was cleared, the sentence became perfectly legible. Written the remaining condensation, right there in the middle of the mirror, were the words, "You missed a spot, you just stared." My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it. You missed a spot. What did that even mean? I looked around the pristine restroom. I hadn't missed anything. The floors were gleaming. The sinks were spotless. The toilets were sanitized. I'm meticulous about my work. I never miss a spot. I looked back at the mirror, at the message, and then a chilling realization washed over me. The writing was on my side of the glass. It wasn't a reflection. Someone, or something, had written that from inside the room. But I was the only one there. I had been for hours. Then my eyes drifted from the words to my own reflection staring back at me. And that's when I saw it. It wasn't in the mirror. It was behind me. In the reflection, just over my shoulder, a dark shape was beginning to form in the deepest corner of the restroom. The corner by the last stall. A spot I had already mopped. A spot that should have been empty. It was just a shadow at first, but it was darker than any other shadow in the room. It was a pocket of absolute blackness that the flickering light couldn't penetrate. And it was growing. It was coalescing, taking on a shape that was vaguely, horribly human. I didn't scream. I couldn't. The sound was trapped in my throat. My feet felt like they were bolted to the floor. All I could do was stare into the mirror, watching this thing behind me get clearer, more defined. I could see the outline of a head, shoulders. It was tall, unnaturally so, its form seeming to stretch and warp in the bad light. The message on the mirror. You missed a spot. It wasn't about the cleaning. It was a warning, or maybe an invitation. The spot I missed was behind me. I finally broke the paralysis. I didn't turn around. I couldn't bear to see it with my own eyes. Not directly. I just threw the cloth, stumbled backward, and scrambled out of that restroom. I didn't even grab my cart. I slammed the door shut behind me and ran. I ran up the basement stairs, not waiting for the elevator. My footsteps echoing in the terrifying silence of the building. I burst into the ground floor lobby, gasping for air, my heart feeling like it was going to explode. I didn't stop. I ran straight out the main entrance and into the pre-dawn light of the city. I never went back. I called my boss that morning and quit. No explanation given. I left my final paycheck, my cart, everything. They could keep it. I still have nightmares about it. I see that foggy mirror. The words materializing as I wipe. And I see that dark shape in the reflection, growing in the corner behind me. I never found out what it was, and I don't want to. Some spots are better left alone. Some doors are better left unopened. And some mirrors. Well, some mirrors show you more than just your reflection. Thanks for listening to my story. I know it's a lot to take in. Be careful out there. And maybe think twice the next time you're alone in a quiet room with a large mirror. You never know what you might see. If you liked this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.